Hello, everyone. Welcome to Challenging Your Status Quo, the go-to podcast for those seeking success that resonates on every level. Our guide on this journey to success is J.A. Dava, co-founder of Latreia Coaching and Consulting. Each episode, we challenge you to step outside your comfort zone in redefining holistic success. Because in order to truly excel, one must rise in all aspects of life: spiritual, physical, relational, and philanthropical. So buckle up. Let's explore how your vocation and well-being can harmonize perfectly. And give a warm welcome to the host of Challenging Your Status Quo, J.A. Dava.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Challenging Your Status Quo. This is J.A. Dava of Latreia Coaching and Consulting, and what an incredible morning we're going to have. I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest because really, you know what, this is episode number 1 of season 2, and what a great guest to have. No other than a gentleman who actually walks the talk and talks the talk as well, really, honestly. And in social media, some of you might already know him from just his boldness and being able to deliver not only helpful tips on the vocational side of things, but absolutely on the word itself. And we're going to go into that because, as you well know, welcome to Challenging Your Status Quo, where we challenge not only your vocational well-being, but we also challenge it by saying you really can't be that successful if everything else in your life is going a little bit awry. And that considers all the different well-beings out there. I'm sure there's more, but the spiritual well-being, you've got your relational well-being, physical, mental, as well as your philanthropical well-being. And today we get to concentrate on vocational and balancing that out with our spiritual. And no better guest than this gentleman from Churchill Mortgage. His name is Matt Clarke, and I want to be able to just kind of have him on, and here he is, Matt Clarke. Matt, good morning. How are you, brother?
Oh, I'm great. I'm with the J.A. Dava. What a great blessing that is for me today.
Well, well, thank you for saying that, and I consider it an absolute blessing. I've been wanting to have you on the show for I actually brought this up to you a year ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost a year ago that we started talking. But you know what? Timing is right on as far as I'm concerned, because I got to see some of the things that I was seeing on social media, and your boldness, honestly, Matt. I can't wait to dig into that. But before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about you and who you are in the vocational world? First and foremost, who are you, Matt?
Well, first and foremost, I'm Susan Clark's husband and father to our 4 kids. Vocationally, I'm the president of Churchill Mortgage. I've been here for about 22 years. This is the only mortgage company I've ever worked with. Before that, I was in the finance and corporate controlling world of a kind of a large global insurance entity. But we've been running Churchill Mortgage for the last 22 years. We're a debt-free company. We're a 100% employee-owned organization, and we're just, an independent mortgage banker who believes it's our responsibility to help the families that work with us and the families that trust us to finance their homes just live better lives. And we really do operate under the golden rule: do as to others as you would want done unto you.
We're already starting to get a little bit of that shadow that's lingering behind you as far as what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm very excited about that. But let me just say this to you, Matt, because I've never ever really said it to you before. But I've had the privilege of traveling all over the country and meeting with a whole bunch of different lenders throughout our country. And I don't say this just because you're a guest on my show, because I don't say it to all my guests, right? But I will tell you that there are only so many companies, honestly, that I would have worked for, and your company is absolutely on the top of that list. And I mean that, and I think you'll understand it a little bit better once we really kind of, once we unfold what today's topic is all about. and why it is that I would go that way. I've known Mike Harwick for quite some time as well, and he's just a great person all the way around. So kudos
Well,
to
thank
you,
you.
and yeah.
Thank
So
you. Thank you for saying that. You mentioned Mike's name. Mike Hardwick's our founder. Mike um, started the company 33 years ago. And when he started the company, he was coming. He had just been a founder at a local community bank, and that was doing really well. And he had come through just a long life up until then of some really great highs and some super low lows, really escaping bankruptcy by just a few days. And the things he learned through his early career in the wins and the failures, he poured into Churchill. And so when I came into this organization, when I just thank God every day to be blessed by the opportunities that I've been given to study under people like Mike Hardwick, under people like Dave Ramsey, under people like Steve Polston, an old friend. Both you and I have had an opportunity to do business with men who both love people, love business, and love God. It changes you in the perspective that you do things. And there's just a high level of accountability to operate with, a level of excellence, a level of commitment, a level of expertise and care that really pours into kind of how you do your work. And when you do that, you get to make friends with people like you, Jay, and you build relationship and you build trust and you build these connections that you desire to be together in business and friendship. And I think that makes a huge difference on how we do stuff.
it absolutely does. In fact, you know what? I mean, I know you said you're the president there at Churchill. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I first met you, you were not. And so,
But not,
just tell me a little bit about your journey.
yeah.
So 20 years that you've been with this.
Yeah, so 22 years ago, I started as a controller. We were just going from being a mortgage broker to a mortgage banker. So we didn't have all of the traditional mortgage banking functions. We had originators, we had processors, and we had a few folks that would collect checks from title and make deposits. And we outsourced all of our bookkeeping and accounting. And so when we came in, we had to create a financial infrastructure. We had to create capital markets and secondary marketing. We had to get products. We had to get warehouse lines. We had to figure out how to underwrite loans and close loans and do things like post-closing and final docs and compliance, which today is a huge part of what everybody does. And so my journey, I was just blessed to be able to build things from the ground up and really learn it at the granular level as we go. I'm reminded early in my career when I got my first professional job as the chief cleaner of the mail cart tires, right? In this insurance company, I was just an entry level, do whatever needs to be done guy. But I made a commitment when I started, and I said, if there's something to be learned, I'm going to learn it. If there's work to be done, I'm going to do it. And I never really slowed down in that pursuit of becoming an expert, learning everything I can learn, and applying that through a persistence of hard work and never quitting. And so that right there, I think, was the key to any level or any measure of success or achievement that I've been able to accomplish. I tell all the folks that come into our organization, I said, be so awesome you can't be ignored. I said, work so hard at what you're asked to do, and then look around you and see what else you can learn. Because if you can continue to grow in your level of expertise, work hard, and treat people right, there's really nothing you can't accomplish here or any other company you work at. And so there's no magic to that. It's just hard work, grinding it out, and continuously learning.
Yeah. So, and then so moving on, really, I mean, 20 something years in the business, Matt. I
Mhm.
mean, I've been in the business now for 30 years, right? But
Woo.
that combines both my mortgage side as well as my real estate side, as well as my coaching side, right?
Mhm.
Coaching and been at it now for about 22 years. So we've seen a lot in the industry, and someone at your position is concerned about other things besides just what um, you know, different levels in our business worry about, things, salespeople worry about. and it's a shifting market right now. It's shifting in so many different ways. But
Mm.
just out of curiosity, are you feeling that just a real difference? Is it really business just kind of going back into that, circular sense, cyclical sense, or is it different today?
I think both, quite frankly.
Oh,
There are always business cycles, right? We've all been through several different business cycles going back to the early 2000s through, the huge growth in 2004 to 6, and then 7, 8, and 9, things started to just collapsed again, and then they kind of been up and down, and then, 2020 and 21. What a blessing that is for so many, but also what a curse it was for a lot of companies because we forgot in many ways what it means to go out and work hard and earn relationships and earn the business because things were just falling on companies like ours for a while. And in the last 3 years, it felt much more like famine and very, very challenging markets, very, very challenging margins, tons of competition for the companies that have remained alive and thriving through that season, and shifting dynamics on how customers are going to want to interact with organizations and people that help them find great solutions to finance their homes. Technology, AI, the rockets, Redfins, all of the things that present competition and challenge, there are still ways to win and win handsomely. What we have to remember is what makes us uniquely great for the people that trust us to do business. And it's relationship, it's trust, it's great advice, it's helping them achieve what we believe to be the real American dream of debt-free home ownership, helping people actually win with money, not just make a quick decision based on data on a screen, but to get in there and understand that nobody really wants a mortgage. What they want is a solution to a problem. Their problem is they either don't have or don't want to use their cash to buy their home. And so they look to the mortgage industry to find creative ways to finance that dream. And it's our job to dig deep and ask questions and go beneath the surface and really structure solutions to solve their unique problems in a way that sets them and their families up for long-term success and prosperity. And if we don't lose sight of that, I think there's always going to be a really large part of the marketplace that will buy what we're selling. Not everybody, but enough to where we can have significant impact on a lot of families and we can create great lives for ourselves and them at the same time.
yeah. You know what? A lot of that teachings I've heard coming from the even Dave Ramsey, to be honest,
Yeah.
when I hear that. And so Matt, you're so right on. And you had brought up that whole, in the changing market like this, what it really comes down to still, and technology can take off as much as it wants to, AI, all of those things, which is a
Mhm.
big buzz in the industry right now. As a coach, I'm asked that a lot. Are you teaching anything on AI? Are you doing all those kind of things? It still comes down to the fact that there is AI, and it's helping us kind of. It's like the computer world, right? It kind of helped us um, uh, microwave everything, right? And then just make it a little bit faster. And AI just kind of, it helps in so many different ways. But one thing it cannot necessarily help on is what you just mentioned, which is really the relational side of things. There's a
Yeah.
relationship, especially when someone's about to make one of the largest investments they'll ever make in their lives, and buying homes and mortgages and all of those kind of things, that they need that person to person
Yeah.
that's actually going to be listening to them and talking to them about all their different options, as you put it, solving the solutions of really something that can affect our lives.
Yeah.
Period.
I love technology, and I won't claim to know much about the difference between technology behind business rules, behind AI, and all of the things that are used. I just know that they're useful. And it's kind of like money, right? People, their whole life want to be rich. They want to get all this money. And they think that's going to be the difference in who they are as a person and their character and their life and their enjoyment and all of those things. And while they're useful, it basically just makes you more of what you already are. And I look at technology the same way. It can significantly enhance how you can bring the value you bring into the marketplace. I think of the quarterback for the Washington Commanders this year, rookie Jaden Daniels. He came into the league as a rookie, and he just did incredibly well. Better than any rookie I've seen. And when you look at his story, one of the things that he did in terms of his training is he used virtual reality goggles. And he would train with virtual reality goggles, but he would increase the speed to 1.75 of what real life was. And by leveraging that level of technology to train his mind to process data faster, when he got onto the ball field, he was making game time decisions far faster than anybody else on the field because he leveraged the available technology to enhance what he brought into the marketplace, his football skills. And if we look at AI the same way for the mortgage business, what an incredible thing it can be for those folks who are willing to have the courage to change the way they think by leveraging the tools available to them to enhance the value they bring to the marketplace, either because of the breadth of information they can now deliver or the pace in which they can deliver it. And if you can couple that and parlay that with the relationship and the emotional intelligence and your capability to connect and ask great questions, it's amazing what technology can allow us to do.
Yeah, truly. What a great kind of a confirmation to that, right? What a great way to say it too, by the way. And because I mean that is a blending of technology and real life. I've still got to be a good quarterback that's able to throw that ball and to be able to make the right moves and all of those kind of things. So I love that. Just you kind of combining that even into our industry, because it is. There's a lot of people that are worried about it, thinking that they're gonna get left behind and all of those kind of things. But you know what? It's here to be embraced, and so embrace it. And one of the things that I absolutely love about our industry is that there's cyclicalness, like you were saying, and at the same time, there's just movement that's and that's where I think technology is. Technology is that constant movement. It isn't necessarily cyclical, because what else is going to come around a year from now, right? I mean, look at you and I. I mean, let's think back 20 years. Let's just take your time. You and I, would you ever have thought that you and I would actually be on a podcast?
Well, one, I don't know that I knew what a podcast was 20 years ago. I certainly was not engaging in video calls with friends and colleagues and teammates and in interview style.
Right.
And I was the traditional old school, and still am in many ways, unfortunately, show up in the office, get face to face, knee to knee, eyeball to eyeball, and that's where the best work is done. But technology has allowed us to expand those experiences. It's just the people who fight it are going to get passed by it. The people who embrace it and learn it are going to be enhanced by it.
Exactly what you just said, by the way, and it's a golden nugget for everyone that's listening right now, is that's where the cyclical side of our business is, though, is that you still got to come in to work, and you still got to work, and you still got to do all the things like pick the phone up and actually build relationships and actually follow up with people. And when you say you're going to call, this is one of the things that when I saw you a year ago, I remember you being on a panel, by the way, and one of the things that you said is, guys, if you say you're going to make the call, quit hiding behind all the other stuff, like, sending out emails and texts and stuff like that. This still matters to people, right? This even seems weird to me, because people really don't do this anymore as a phone, right? But I remember you saying that, and I remember it resonating, because everyone in that room needed to hear that, because they think that AI can replace that side of them and just kind of, make it automated. Relationship building and making an actual phone calls. We still got to do it. That's the cyclical part of our business. It continues to come back to basics.
And as technology has continued to learn and grow, I think humans have too. How many times do you engage with a voice on the other end of a call and you just know it's an automated voice? And it's better and better, and it's harder and harder to detect. It really is. But there are those subtle things that you can pick up on when you're talking to an actual human versus a machine.
Right.
And so we're all getting smarter. And what I desire is to get the information I need really quickly. And so things like ChatGPT and Grok and other AI type of engines that we can ingest data from, that's really good. But then I want to process that data with trusted people like you. And I want to talk it through, and I want to think, and I want to combine the emotion of the processing of information with the accessibility of the data. And I just think it's in the combination of those things that people are going to win.
Yeah. You're bringing up something that is also another thing that 20 years ago I didn't even think existed, honestly. And that's the whole idea of, a lot of us are intellectuals when it comes to the business side of things. We know um, how to do an FHA loan. We know how to do a conventional loan. We know VA loans. We know different things like that. And that's the intellectual side of us. And people think that that was the thing that you really had to make sure you knew. That's important. I understand that. But you've said emotion a couple of times already in the whole study of EQ in this world today, right? The emotional quotient. And being able to pull those two together, because I think it
Mhm.
sums up a lot of what's happening when you're having a conversation about AI and technology and all the new things like that. The one thing it cannot necessarily um, replace is that emotional quotient, which we all process it accordingly. We process it. There's a great book out there called Emotional Intelligence Habits, and it talks about the intellect is up in the frontal lobe, but anything that comes, any thought that comes into us goes right through the emotional side of it first, right before it ever hits the frontal lobe, which is the intellect side, and that's when we react, and people react, and sometimes not so good. Those reactions aren't so good before they even really hit the intellectual level. Some people, because they're not focused on the emotional side, they don't think it's
Mhm.
important, but it truly is important, especially in today's AI world. So
So important.
yeah, so but Matt, one of the there's so much you and I can be talking about from a business perspective, but let me tell you that where you really made a difference, and I just commend you, and I know that that's not as easy to hear a lot of times, but I commend you over the fact that you don't only carry you're blessed to carry a good position in our business. It comes with I mean, it's earned for sure. But you're blessed to be in that position, to be able to affect so many people. But you go way above and beyond that. Because one of the things that I have found fascinating about you, Matt, is the fact that you're on social media. For somebody that carries your position, you're on social media and you're not necessarily talking about business. Now, I believe you're talking about business and principles, and also um, some great helpful tips in there, but it's all driven from the word, right? Your
Yeah.
spiritual walk. And so many of our listeners, um, yes, they come to us because of the vocational side of things, but I almost always, brother, it always ends up somehow back to the spiritual side of it that people are really seeking. So I want to ask you, you know, what got you started on that? I mean, you didn't just do that from the beginning. You actually, I want to hear that side of you, man, because a vocational side, and then now you're balancing it with a spiritual side. Not an easy task.
Not an easy task. And
Yeah.
yet it's so easy. It's not an easy task largely because society at large discourages it. And they don't think that, generally speaking, right? There are a lot of people that do, but generally speaking, my experience has been that society at large thinks that business and faith shouldn't mix. And all it goes back to this whole church and state thing, right? Keep them separate. In fact, I remember growing up as a young boy visiting my grandmother in Bronxville, New York, and she was such an amazing woman, and she taught me the value of the arts and opera, and But she would always say, a great conversation should always steer clear of politics and religion. And I always thought to myself, one, I wasn't a really religious kid. You know, I spent a lot of time in my youth being young. In fact, I remember one day my mother telling a story as she was driving home on our old road in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, and she was going a little fast, and she got pulled over. And when the policeman came over and kind of went to write her a ticket, he saw her license, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Oh, you're Matt and Greg's mom, aren't you?" She's like, "Yeah." He was like, "You've been through enough. Go on, you're fine." And so just, I think my faith journey has been exactly that, a journey where I've learned a ton. And I'd say several decades ago, I woke up probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and I had kids, and I realized I'm all over the place. And so I started reading the Bible. I just picked it up and started reading it. And I'd read a little bit in the New Testament and a little bit in the Old Testament. I'd read some Psalms, I'd read some Proverbs, and I'd do that consistently each and every day. If you know anything about me, when I make my mind up to do something in terms of a daily habit, I'm going to do it and I'm going to stick to it. So I've stuck to it. And several decades later, I've gone through the Bible multiple times, every single word. Every time I go through it, it speaks to me in different ways based on the point in my life that I'm in and the experiences that I'm going through. And it's amazing how it does that. And it teaches me. And so, back in about 2019, our organization continued to grow. I used to be in a position where I could walk around any branch in our country, and we had branches from East Coast to West Coast at that time, and I would know every single person by name. I'd know their wife's or husband's name. I'd know if they had kids. I'd know something about them. And it just got beyond my ability to do that. And so I decided back in 2019 that I needed to begin to expand my influence in terms of the culture and communicate with the team. So I started communicating thoughts a couple of times a week. And then when COVID hit in 2020, I remember in March 20th, 2020, I was like, wow, this is going to be one heck of a ride for a lot of people. So I started upping that responsibility because people were working from home now. The office was empty. I was one of the only people that came to the office every day during that season. And I just felt I'm not going to physically be with people every day. I need to communicate with them. So I started writing daily to the organization, and I expanded what I was writing and who I was distributing that to a group of several hundred friends. And that list continues to grow to where, fast forward to today, it probably goes out to about 20,000 people every day, and it gets posted on Facebook, and we do Instagram videos, and we're just communicating. And the whole premise, what I feel like the gift that God has given me was to be vulnerable, to experience life, to apply what I'm reading to my life, and to share a lesson from it. And so when I'm writing and reading, and I get up every single morning and I read, and while I'm reading, I'm processing my life through what I'm reading, and which one is extraordinarily healthy for me. What am I going through? Because we all got issues, and we're all going through something. What am I reading that can apply to what I'm going through? And then can I look for a lesson in what I'm reading that is both applicable to me but useful for other people in our business and in our surrounding friends and family and groups that we hang with? And can I translate what I always struggled with growing up? Can I translate the Bible into a practical application in life and business and family? And that's my challenge every day. And that's what I'm committed to do it. And quite frankly, I don't care what your religious beliefs are, what denomination, if you're an atheist, if you're Jewish, if you're any other of the world religions. What I try to communicate is something useful. And if it offends you, it offends you. I'm sorry. That's not for me to control. I'm simply sharing what I believe. And if it can help someone, awesome. Even if I get 10 people that says, "You're stupid, stop emailing me, what are you doing, what are you trying to pull?" I get far more saying, "Thank you, I needed that," from people I don't even know. That spoke to me today. I needed to hear that today. Keep doing it. It's encouraging.
Yeah,
So,
life wasn't always like that for you, right? Was it?
no, it was not. It was not. It was not. But, you know, the Bible says, don't be ashamed of the gospel. And I've found that every single thing that I need to learn in life can be found rooted somewhere in that book. And so I seek it out and I look for it. And when I find it, I share it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you know what? I mean, I do know because I had the privilege of working with your group at Churchill. And I do know that there's all walks of life at Churchill. You know, you can't
Yeah,
just walk into Churchill and think that just because it's Churchill, that everybody there is a quote unquote believer. You guys are just as much a melting pot as what the whole United States is, as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned. Right? It's a melting pot, and so to be able to run an organization like that, one of the things that I do know is that when I was asking you about it, you talked about some core convictions, right? Because I don't
yeah,
think you drill it in their minds. I mean, that's not how I feel. When I'm in there, it isn't like it's being spoken of or like there's um, being beat into your head. Far from it, to be honest, right? But you just know that there's something different, and I think it's leadership. But so tell me a little bit about how you manage having such a mix, because way too many people worry about the consequences of sharing the word internally, whether or not they believe in it, but because they're in leadership, they will not cross it. But you do. So
You might have just sparked a few minutes of conversation from me, Jay, so I
no,
apologize.
I wanted
But,
to.
here's what I believe. I believe God calls us to love people. I don't read anywhere where he says, love people that believe the same thing you believe
Mm,
only.
it's for sure.
Love people that look the same way you look. Love people that live in your community only. Love like people. Well, we should. He calls us to love people. And if we love people enough, they'll get curious as to why. I do a lot of trips into third world countries. I've been doing it for about 16, 17 years. I try to take a team every single year. And early on those trips, I'd be with groups that would keep track of the number of people they got to repeat the Romans Road certain Bible verses, and that was what their scorecard was. And I think that's great for those people. It's just not who I am. And so I started doing my own trips into places, and we'd build houses and schools and dig water wells and put in latrines and help people. And by loving on others without any expectation in return, that process in itself reveals the love of God to them. They don't need my words, although if they ask for them, I have them. And I just feel like that's the example that we want to set as followers of Jesus, regardless of what you think.
Yeah.
You talked about conviction. I also believe that people want to follow leaders with passion and conviction. And nobody's going to follow you unless they know what you're passionate about and you're convicted about. And they can pick up a lot of that in terms of just how you behave each and every day. But one of the things I decided years ago, as our founder, Mike Hardwick, started to turn over more of the leadership responsibility to me of the organization. Got to understand, Mike is a revered character in this organization, in this community, and across the industry. The people that I admire in this industry admire Mike. And so the burden of trying to step into and out of a shadow that was so big and had so much favor from other folks, it was hard. And I had to decide early on, am I going to be a Mike Jr. and just try to carry on his words and his way of doing things, which is part of what my responsibilities are, quite honestly. I have to honor that because it's good, and I should. But like AI, I need to add to it. to bring out more of who I am in that role. And so a couple of decades ago, I sat down and I came up with a set of personal core convictions, things that I decided are important to me and that I'm going to filter every activity, every decision, and every response through in terms of how I live my life. I'm not always going to do them well, but this is my aspiration. This is what I'm convicted in my life. And if you have a minute, Jay, I'd like to share what those are because it does speak to what goes into how we lead the organization and how I want to be held accountable as a human, as a husband, as a father, and as a leader.
Yes, absolutely.
The first one is I believe that I was created to serve others without exception. The Bible says to be first, you must be last. To be the leader of any, you must be the servant of all. I had to add without exception because what I found was I don't like everybody. Some people are jerks. I don't want to be around them, and I don't feel like serving them. And I found myself determining who was worthy of my attention and my service. And that's just an arrogant, dumb place to be. So we can serve everybody. How we choose to serve them can be different. Some people need a hug. Some people need advice. Some people need a helping hand. Quite frankly, some people, myself included, need a kick in the butt. Right? And that's loving people through service. The second core conviction is I believe in being the hardest working person in the room. Lazy people suck. They get in the way. I want to be the hardest working person in the room, and I want to be surrounded with others who also want to be the hardest working person in the room. I don't care if you're at the office, you're in the gym, you're on the mission field, you're in the backyard chopping wood. Whatever you do it with a level of hard work and focus and intensity, because then you get it done and you create energy. And guess what happens? You get more time in your day, in your life, to do other things. It's an experience enhancer. It's a joy enhancer. Hard work, I believe, is the key to a joyful life. Third core conviction is be the expert. Whatever you choose to do it with a level of expertise. If you're not going to be an expert at something, find something that you're passionate about being an expert in that you can also make a living at, right? A lot of people feel like their passions are taking them out of actually earning for their family, and I don't believe that's true either. But be the expert, constantly be learning, study your craft. Know in our business, know your guidelines, know people, know how to ask questions, know how to dig deep with folks, know all of the different products and what it takes to get them approved, and how to prepare closing docs, and how to dot the right I's and cross the right T's and stay in compliance along the way. But you also have to realize and have the humility that you can't be the expert at everything. So part of being the expert is surrounding yourself with people who are better than you at certain things. At Churchill, as we talked about earlier, I've done every job in the company. And now I have people around me that do it every job way better than I ever could. And that's part of it. And the other part is having mentors, having people that are ahead of you in your life, that have kind of already been down that road and can tell you what potholes to miss and what turns to take, and love you enough to help guide you along your journey because they've already been down their journey in front of you. I've got some amazing mentors. Mike Hardwick I've talked about a few times. He's an amazing mentor. Jim McQuaig, one of our leaders at Churchill, he's been an amazing mentor for me for the last 20 years. Jim's the guy that I go to when I just need the sober truth. Right? When you just need someone to spank you upside the head and tell you black and white the truth, even though you don't want to hear it. Jim loves me enough to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And God, what a gift that is. The fourth core conviction, JA, is leave people better for the encounter. I actually have this one written on my wall across the office. Leave people better for the encounter. Every interaction you have with a person is an opportunity to leave them better off than you found them. And you know, most of the time, that's putting your phone down when you walk into a restaurant and smiling and saying thank you to the host or hostess, or making the waiter or waitress feel like they're the most important person at the table, not you. It's those little things, those little human connections, because all of us are carrying around things in our life that we'd be shocked if everyone could see, right? Pains, successes, desires, dreams, hurts, you name it, baggage. Every single one of us. Our job is to not make that load heavier, but to make it lighter for folks. The fifth core conviction is do the next right thing. Do the next right thing. That speaks to the fact that we're all imperfect. We all make mistakes all day long, every single day. We say things we shouldn't. We do things we shouldn't. We make a mistake. We go left when we should go right. And a lot of times in my life, I tried to cover that up because I was ashamed. Doing the next right thing eliminates shame. It basically says I messed up and I'm sorry. And I learned from it. And I do what's right. Next, I make the apology. I make the admission. I take the left when I knew I should have, but I went right instead. You know, in the vernacular of golf, we talk about this as hit your next best shot. You shank it in the woods, what are you going to do? You're going to cheat and hit
Yeah,
another
I
one?
do right away.
Yeah, I do too. You're going to kick it out,
Right.
or you're just going to chip out, get back in the fairway, and hit another shot and another shot and another shot, because life tends to kick us where we don't want to be kicked. We get sick, we get divorced, people die, we lose jobs, etc. You can sit and wallow in pity, or you can do the next right thing. You can hit your next best shot and get up and take a step forward. And then the last thing I talk about, I spoke to this a little bit earlier, and whenever anybody asks me, and this is just my answer, there's no scientific proof behind it. But whenever anybody asks me keys to success, I always boil it back down to how you start your day. What's your morning routine like? I call this one mornings matter. How you start every day directly influences your impact of that day. I personally choose to start my day every day the same way, no matter what, no excuses, period. Whether I have a 6 a.m. flight and I got to get up at 2:30 to get my routine done, or I can take a little more time like I did this morning. Every single day I read. I read several books that feed my mind and my heart. For me, they're devotional books, they're business books, they're lifestyle books, and they're my Bible. I've got a very specific program which I read every day. I write. I take notes. I journal. Right? I've had to learn and train myself to be vulnerable, starting with being vulnerable with myself and being honest. That's one of my journals, right? I write the things I'm worried about. I write the things I'm anxious about. I write the things I did good yesterday and I did poorly yesterday. And I talk about what's happening today, and I write a lot of prayer. And we already talked, I write to the company and, whoever else chooses to pay attention. So I read, I write, I pray. A grateful heart is essential to start every day with. I don't always wake up with a grateful heart, or at least go to bed with one, because, life happened. And so I wake up and I pray and I seek the Lord's favor until I have a healthy dose of gratitude leading me on. And I exercise, right? I exercise every single day. I can do something. I'm not trying to go compete in any Ironmans. I just want to be healthy and fit and have high levels of energy and confidence, and exercise is part of that. It also gives me a little headspace to process the day and emotions and all of the things that kind of dwell in me that I need to work through in order to be ready for the day. And the way I see it is, if I have a great morning routine, I can bring my best to work and to my family and my community, and I think they deserve my best, period. And I kind of feel like I deserve other people's best too. And so I talk about this a lot. And so those are the core convictions, J.A., that I've put on myself, that I speak about and I pour into our organization, because I want people to be in alignment. Those are the types of people I want to do life and business with. Those are the people we can take that hill with, because I know that we can trust each other.
Yeah, that's for sure. These are the core convictions, and they are passed on throughout your company.
They
And
are.
I honestly believe that that's been there for a while. I don't think it's necessarily something that just started to be created inside of your company, because those are some of the things that I absolutely believe. Um, I see when I'm working, and when I was working with Churchill more, right? And I saw that. One of the things that really impressed me about that whole thing is that, there are three people in our lives, right? And you nailed it in your testimony today, even, that there are three people in our lives, and we should have them in our lives. We have our Paul, our Barnabases, and our Timothys, right?
Yeah.
And so many of us have Timothys. all day long. We had a bunch of Timothys, whether it's our children, their spouses, just colleagues, people that are Timothys. Then we got those Barnabases, which we also have plenty of. A lot of Barnabases, a lot of people that you hang with. Hopefully, they're all good, right? Those kind of things.
Hopefully.
But where most people fail, and you whipped it out like it was nothing for you, are the Pauls of people's lives. And that is one of the biggest questions I ask every single one that wants to go there with me. Is I ask them, who are the Pauls in your life? In other words, who are your mentors in your life? Paul did not need to know exactly what's happening with Timothy. All he knew him well enough that if he was somewhere, he was writing him a letter because he just knew what was going to start to happen. And you named Mike, and you just named them all, just like that. And these are the Pauls in your life. And I bet they've had times where they saw you doing something, and before you didn't ask, they were right on you, telling you, "Hey, listen, brother, this is it's really not good for you." So I'm just telling you that. Where some people just won't care to do that enough. So Pauls in your life, how important are they?
I mean, they're essential. I mean, honestly, left to myself, I'm a complete train wreck. I'm going 90 miles an hour in any direction I feel like going that day. And so without a great engineer, whether that be the Lord's Word, whether that be the Pauls in my life and my great mentors, whether it be the people that I surround myself with, I'm going off the reservation.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, I've embraced that knowledge, and I know me well enough to know that those guardrails are important, and the people that put them there, I need to honor and trust. And I need to constantly be seeking that wisdom. Definition of wisdom is a deeper understanding of principles that have held true over time. In other words, seeking out the information and principles that have led to prosperous, healthy, great lives, and understanding those things deeper and deeper. And what I mean by that is, how do you apply them into your own life?
Yes.
Right? Book knowledge is great, but left in the book is useless. Book knowledge manifested in your life is a deeper understanding and wisdom.
That's for sure. Wow. Well, I mean, first of all, the core conviction, this is a topic on its own, brother.
Yeah.
I wish I had another full hour that I could just sit down with you on. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to ask it anyway. Will you join me again in about a quarter from now to this core convictions?
I love what you're doing, the impact that you're having on people. I love how you're coaching others to become better and sharing their faith and deepening their faith. So anytime you want me to join you, I'm more than happy to.
I will. I will be calling you on that. And I did ask you during our yesterday, and I said I can't wait to hear the core convictions because I want to teach on it. Especially because I truly believe that in the words that you share, serve others, be the hardest worker. I mean, this is all the stuff that most of these people that are listening right now might not necessarily come in because of the spiritual combination of vocational help, but these are vocational tips that really people ought to be picking up on, right? Serving others. Come on. The hardest worker. Come on. Be the expert, right? And then when you're talking about live people better than when you met them, right? So another making that impression. I love the whole idea that you brought up, like servers, at restaurants and things like that. People don't think about those kind of things. That's a chance meeting. It's a divine appointment that is a fleeting appointment, but what you leave them with, unbelievable, right?
Hey, think about what Jesus said God's greatest commandment is. Yeah. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind.
Right.
One, even to do that, you got to commit your heart, your soul, and your mind, which means you got to consume it in all different types of ways. Yeah. Second is love others as you love yourself. Yes. And so, one, you got to love yourself. You got to fall in love with yourself. I have 3 jobs every morning as I go through my morning routine. It's to fall head over heels in love with my Savior, to fall head over heels in love with my wife, and to fall head over heels in love with myself. And I need to renew that commitment every single morning.
Love that.
And then I can love others. And so leaving people better for the encounter is a biblical truth of putting others in front of you and just loving them like crazy.
Wow. Matt, man, this is where it's a great place to end. It's a horrible place, however, to end the podcast, right? But a great place to end. Just the time that you've spent and just talking to our group. I mean, believe it or not, we've been on for 50 minutes, right? It hardly seems like we're just getting started. And so, Matt,
Yeah.
I mean, for everything it's worth, I know you're a busy man, but I also know that you're convicted in a lot of different things that I think a lot of people need to hear. That isn't just truly about what they think they need, but it's what they absolutely have. And I love how you were ending that with talking about the spiritual first, the relational second, and then yourself, right? So, and at Latreia, that is what we talk about. We talk about spiritual first, your relationship straight up to Christ, what that's all about first and foremost, because that will help you with your horizontal type of
Mhm.
relationships, starting with your spouse and your family and all of that. And then got to take care of you too, right? The
Yeah.
physical well being, the relational well being, the spiritual well being, all before really, honestly, vocational kicks in.
Yeah.
Vocational,
And if you do that, your vocation will blossom.
I believe so, 100%.
Yeah.
So, man, I can't say enough, brother, but I'm going to steal your time again, just because I don't think it should end here. I think there's going to be more people asking about this episode and asking. Not a, I think we should do a whole podcast on just the core convictions and really digging deeply into that, because there's
Yeah.
an awful lot of people that can take that wrong. I mean, just the bottom part of that. I'm the same way, by the way. I'm a 4:30 to 7:30 guy, but as I've learned, that shifts because I travel like you do. I travel an awful
Hmm.
lot. So sometimes that is 2:30 to 5:30. It's a 3-hour span that I absolutely must happen for my physical, my relational side, as well as my spiritual side, right? That's when I get a lot of my readings done and all that. That's a show on its own. So
No excuses, Jay. No excuses.
absolutely, there's not. And so, Matt, I'm gonna end it there for now. But certainly, I look forward, brother, to having you on. I'll get way in front of your calendar so that we can schedule that out and really take that full hour. But brother, I can't say enough about how grateful I am that you took the time to be, on challenging your status quo.
Thanks
And
for having me on, and I look forward to doing it again.
absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and any parting words, Matt? Anything you want to say just to kind of close us off, and then I'll go ahead and end the show.
Yeah, I would just encourage those of you who are listening to this or any of the things JA is doing or anything you go out and you choose to consume. Listening is one thing, application is an entirely different thing. And so I challenge myself and all of you, find one thing you can go and execute on today. Speed of implementation of this stuff is really important. And the more that you do that quickly, the more you'll have the opportunity to continue to do it and make it a routine and a discipline in your life.
That's awesome, Matt. Again and again, thank you. And for all of you that are listening and made it through, I am sure you're at the edge of your seat wanting to hear a little bit more, especially in the core convictions, which was a major part of today's show. But there's so much more to cover. So I promise you, I will have Matt back on again and deal directly with the core convictions as well as starting your day correctly. It's a must. And so more to come, guys. But I just want to thank my guest, Matt Clarke, and I look forward to it again. And as I
Thank you,
always
Jay.
end every single show, thank you, Matt, for always end every show. Guys, be blessed and go be a blessing. Take care, everyone.
And that wraps another episode of Challenging Your Status Quo. We hope you found inspiration and practical wisdom to carry into your daily lives. If JA has inspired you, join our community by subscribing to the podcast. Stay connected with us at latreacoaching.com and through our social media channels where the conversation and growth continue. On behalf of JA and his whole team, we thank you for listening and invite you to keep challenging the status quo in your own life. Until next time, remember, pursue excellence, live purposefully, and embrace holistic success. We'll catch you next episode.